All right. Hi, Jaya.
Hi there, Chris. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Great to have you here.
Thanks for having me on your program.
Of course, yeah. So I want to introduce you, but I'm going to quickly say for the audience, I am Chris Raycamp with the UMKC Innovation Center Technology Venture Studio, and specifically in this context, Whiteboard to Boardroom. And we're doing a technology snapshot series. Whiteboard to Boardroom is a program that brings innovative technologies from the lab, partnering with our 22 universities and hospitals and research partners to highlight these technologies, and our partners that bring through their efforts some of the technologies from the lab to the world. And today we're excited to have with us Dr. Jaya Ghosh. Jaya has many exciting projects and titles. Program Director of the MU Coulter Biomedical Accelerator, Lead Program Manager of the Midwest Biomedical Accelerator Consortium, Adjunct Faculty at the Trulaske College of Business, Program Manager for NIH and Concept to Clinic, Commercializing Innovation Program, and on and on and on. So cool to have you here and be talking about all this stuff. I'd love for you to dig in a little bit and give us kind of the rundown, Jaya, on your background, your work, the Coulter Accelerator, and what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, sure. No, thank you. Thank you, Chris, for the kind introduction and that long laundry list. It does look like that. So, but yeah,
Did I
again, and
miss
thank
any
you.
of the titles?
I wish you had missed a couple. I was like, oh my God, that just looks too weird. But no, thank you again for the introduction and for having me on the program. So, like you said, it's my goal overall in these positions, and they sound different, but they are all basically oriented toward the same goal. So my goal is to enable translation of lab discoveries and innovations into tangible, real world products that can improve patient care, that can go out there and help patients. When you think of academia, you think of publications, right? You think poster presentations, conferences, right? All these really hardworking people doing all this very academic stuff. But as academics, I feel like we also have this unique opportunity to have a direct impact on improving patient care, right? Thanks to all the cutting edge research that is done in academics, right? But however, it's not a simple like a one-step transition, right? Oh, here I have something that works in the lab, and now I have something that can revolutionize healthcare. It requires a lot of resources, expertise, a very thorough understanding of how product development works. So there is kind of sometimes, most of the times I've seen a disconnect between what is in academia and what is needed in the market to improve patient care. So that's where the two programs that I direct and manage come in. And these are the MU Coulter Biomedical Accelerator, as you mentioned, and it was originally funded by the Wallace H. Coulter Foundation, and is currently funded by the University of Missouri. And the second one is the Midwest Biomedical Accelerator Consortium, or MBARC in short, which is an NIH research, evaluation, and commercialization hub, REACH in short. So which is also, which also actually last year received additional funding from the NIH Rapid Acceleration of Diagnostics, the RADX initiative, which was launched to speed up innovation in the development, commercialization, and implementation of technologies like for COVID-19 testing diagnostics, right? So both programs, basically what they do is they provide the training, funding, mentorship, project management, everything that is required to help university researchers get started on that very, that very journey I was talking about previously of understanding how the process of bridging that gap between lab research and real world healthcare solutions works, right? So, like when we do research, we are very used to doing aim 1, aim 2, aim 3, right? Okay, this is why I want to see how this works. And then we think about product development, and then, it's that mindset change from just reaching the aims versus actually doing milestones and doing go no go decision points, right? That I want to make sure that if what I'm developing, if it fails now rather than 5 years and 5 million worth of time, money, everything, and heartache, right? So so that's the goal, is to help researchers understand how do I bridge that gap, right? So like I said, I mean, and as you can imagine, it's not always an easy, straightforward journey. But to me, I mean, it's an amazing, I think it's an amazing reflection of this country's really entrepreneurial spirit, that, you do the science, and we also think, how do I get this science out there to help people? And this is just truly amazing, that these consistent efforts that are out there in so many universities and academic settings, and growing to help develop innovative care for the US population and the rest of the world. So it's amazing. Yeah. My background wise, I have a PhD in bioengineering. So I was in the lab all the time. I loved being in the lab, but then I found this very exciting process, right? Where you are like, oh, I have something in the lab. And my PhD advisor had actually had a startup. So that was something kind of an introduction to that world for me, and that kept pushing me in that direction, like, oh wow, if it was possible to really do what you do in the lab, and then translate it into something that can improve the real life, a patient, I mean, improve patient care, the health and life of a patient. So yeah, so that's where kind of I stand, and my background and what I do on a daily basis.
That's so cool and so needed. I mean, clearly, obviously, our missions are very aligned, and our interests are very aligned in bringing this, all the intellectual capital that exists and that power of these academic institutions to apply
Mhm.
them to a real world context, right? So let's focus on the researchers a little bit. So
Sure.
how do they find you? What are you hoping to do for them? What are you hoping they get from this experience as they venture outside of their lab, or you come in contact with their lab?
Right, right. I mean, technically, when our programs have these whole solicitations, right, announcements for a call for letters of intent and proposals. So that's how we tend to get out there, make sure people know that these programs exist. We go through the tech transfer offices. We go through several of our partners at all the institutions we work with. But you're right, Chris, because meeting the researchers is the one of the most exciting parts of this journey, of this process for me. So, when a researcher first comes in and they share their research interests and their vision of a new product that could improve patient care, whether it's a simple software app or it's a complex therapeutic which will take decades probably to get to market, it's an absolute thrill, right? It's every time I'm like, oh my god, that is so cool. And without fail, but then I rein myself in, like, okay, that is cool, but these are the steps, these are the processes, right, that you have to go through. So when researchers reach out to me, they usually have the science down, right, and they want to understand that how these programs, these are like proof of concept, prototyping, you can call these programs any of those names, translational research programs. So they want to understand how these programs can help them with the next steps, right, their next steps, what do they need to do next. So my goal is to then, in that first meeting, not scare them away, right, not throw them off, like, okay, this is this huge journey in front of you, but to tease out, right, that overall vision for the product. What do you have, like, what do you want to get to, how do you get from point A to B, who should you talk to, who have you talked to already, right, what resources will you need in your journey, and not only the immediate journey, but an appreciation of the whole process. So it is a lengthy process, but to lay it out in front of them, right, like, this is how it might look like, so that they have an understanding and they can come back and say, yes, you know what, I want to get going on this. And mostly they do say that, because they say that, yes, I understand that this is a lengthy process, but I think I have something that can go out there and really improve the lives of patients. So that's something that drives both the researchers and me. It's like, yeah, we have a common goal. It is a long process, but let's get started. And then for me, I hope that they take back that vision, right? I mean, despite how long and difficult it might seem, hope I convey to them that this journey is worth taking, and that you're doing the right thing by getting started early, right? Because you're not thinking, waiting for another so many years or doing so many things, and then starting to think that, is there really a product here?
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. That's so important. And it's so interesting and I think unique that to live in both supporting the research, but simultaneously supporting this kind of discovery process of commercial viability of those regulatory pathways and all those things, kind of this holistic approach that you're taking, right? To support that vision and the your collective vision, the hope of this impacting the real world, right?
Mhm.
So what do you think is hardest about that? Like what's I know there's a lot of hard things.
Right. I mean, it is overall a hard process, right? But thankfully, it's not just me or the program office that is there to help our researchers when they come to us and when they start working with us. It takes a village, right? To sound as it might sound cliche, but it does, right? It takes a village. It's our advisors, our leadership teams, our tech transfer officials, then our external, like we have external review boards and oversight committees that help select teams for funding. These are experts in industry, investment communities. Then we have ad hoc reviewers who help us, right, from our local ecosystem. We have mentors. We work with the NIH. We have worked extensively with the Coulter Foundation. Then we have partners like Whiteboard to Boardroom. We have, other resources here like the Missouri Innovation Center, the Biogenerator in St. Louis. We work with the Sharp Hub, right? Then we have other partners, like we're trying to partner up with more entities like Smart Health Catalyzer out of Chicago, and all of our consultants, right? Lots of consultants. So there are a lot. When I started thinking of that list, I'm like, that's a long list, right? But it's still a challenge because resources, mentors, advisors, subject matter experts, key opinion leaders, you name it, champions, supportive ecosystem, investors, we are always looking out for more support, right? A bigger network, because we have specific applicants who come into us, right? So the more individualized, customized mentorship and support we can provide to them for their product, their vision, the better it is, as we help them move forward in the journey.
Yeah.
And so that's for my hardship. And then the the other hardship, I definitely notice that, because it's a noteworthy challenge, right, for our researchers, our students, our postdocs who participate in our programs, right, is the mindset change. Because from thinking about what research is, right, how do I get my next publication, right, what do I do, to how a product would work. And one thing, like one thing, an organization like the Wallace H. Coulter Foundation, which I mentioned to you earlier, right, which helped fund our Coulter program, it was one of the pioneers in funding actually academic translational research programs, so that they could teach researchers how to think about getting their lab research from lab to market, right. The foundation, like I mentioned, one of the main values that they instilled successfully in academia is that you need to get started early, right? You need to reach out for all the help you need. You need to figure out who your stakeholders are, all the different, boxes you need to check as you move forward, and starting now, not starting 5 years later when you have a startup and you're thinking, how do I raise money? Not then, but now, right? Pre that startup stage. So, and this understanding that when you are when you understanding how to build your business case, right, on the based on the needs of the healthcare system, not just how cool the technology is, because that's where I meet people, is that, oh my god, I have such a cool technology, can it be a cool product, right? So that's a huge gap there. Sometimes when people think, oh, the science works means the product will work, but that's not always the case, Chris, that as well.
Yeah, and
So
I think you're a fantastic resource there, right? I mean, you're talking about
I try to be.
the partners as well, but I know that you delved deep into this process and you become, um, an integral part of it. So one
Right.
part of that we've talked about is you as your experience as an engineering fellow for MU Biodesign. What do
Right.
you bring from that kind of helps you facilitate this process?
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm happy to, one thing I was thinking in terms of when I was, talking about that village, is that it's so important for both programs like ours as well as researchers to get buy-in from their academic units, right? From their universities, institutions, their tech transfer and their ecosystem, because we are a small but an essential part of the process. I mean, it's like we help with one of the first steps the innovator takes, but we need all the support system around us, right? That can complement that, or our value add in moving anything forward. So yeah, so it's I think multiple factors, but yeah, I just thought I'll complete that thought I had before
Please,
about,
yes.
because I always want to make sure that tech transfer offices and all know how appreciative we are of all that they do for us. It's amazing. And the entities like Whiteboard to Boardroom, Biogenerator, everything, they are all essential components in this process. So now going back to your bio design question. So that was my stepping stone, like I said, right, into this whole world. It was a life-changing experience for me, and at the time it was established, I think MU's bio design program was the second in the nation, only after Stanford. So it was a pretty prestigious program. Very, very select few universities had it. Unfortunately, we lost the program a few years ago because of funding issues, right? I mean, who hasn't heard of funding issues, right? But I can't emphasize enough, how important the program was, and what a difference it made in everyone who participated in it. And we do continue to look for resources that could help revive the program. And I'll just shamelessly go ahead and plug it in there, right? Thanks for the opportunity, Chris. I don't know if you gave it to me, but I seized it anyway, right?
Yes, please.
So the fellowship, the engineering fellowship, actually, like I say, it got me started on this adventure, right? To basically, I was a fresh researcher out of my research mode, but it made me stand there at the junction of academia and industry, and start thinking like, oh, how does this work, right? What I see, what I can do in the lab, how can this go back and go out and help a patient, so help a doctor, right, help a healthcare system. So as a PhD researcher, I was more used to being in a lab, right? I had a very research oriented mindset. And, I remember, I mean, one thing I always think of is how afraid I was of picking up the phone, right? And talking to someone. I would like, oh, I just write an email, spend half an hour thinking, how should I write this email, right? So it was very like, I'm a researcher. This is my best mode of connecting with someone. But that, I mean, that for me is a simplified way of how I see this fellowship, pre-translation, post-translation. I was not a researcher anymore. I had to get out and talk to people. And that's something, we try to do with all our researchers, get out there, talk to people. But yeah, so, I was, when I got into this fellowship, it was an incredible opportunity to work with this interdisciplinary team. So I was working with a business person and then a clinician, a clinical person. And we would, it introduced me to this very important concept of needing clinical immersion when you are trying to build a solution for your clinician, right? That not just thinking, I have this cool um, engineering tool, I will go and fit it into something in the hospital. But starting with what the hospital needs, what your physicians need, what your clinicians, your nurses, everyone, what they need, and then mapping it over to what do I have, how can I solve their problem? And not just solve their problem, but in a way that somebody will buy it, somebody will use it, somebody will benefit from it, right? So just so many things. It was fascinating. It's truly fascinating. And the need to talk to all your stakeholders before you jump into designing anything for them, right? So that was pretty fascinating to me. And is it a problem, or is it everybody's problem? Is it just this person was a problem but everybody's problem? So it was very interesting that I think we spent around 3 or 4 months attending surgeries and stuff every, like, wake up at 6 a.m. and run into the Missouri Orthopedic Institute to watch a knee implant surgery. It was amazing. It was really truly an eye-opening experience, like how things work in a healthcare system. And that's something I think only academia can offer, right? Where you have a teaching hospital where you can actually go and work with your surgeons, that they are okay with you standing and watching. And sometimes, like, I mean, I have been in it's incredible, amazing, like, uh, you know, brain surgeries to knee surgeries. I mean, to anything and everything. It's just amazing. I've seen the Da Vinci, like how they work with it. It was super fun. But what it mostly did for me was then understanding that, oh, I have all this engineering knowledge, but I really need to find the problem first. problem, then solution. It's not like you have a solution and you're looking for a problem for that. So that's, that's something that has been ingrained in me through both biodesign and Coulter.
Mm.
And and then, like I mentioned earlier, right, getting to know and appreciate the process. Like, you're, I mean, think about it. You're building something. Your user might be a patient, right? But the buyer might be the healthcare system, and the payer might be CMS, right? So all different entities, and you have to understand, how do you get the buy-in from all of them? How do you convince all of them that this is the right solution? It's not, it's not like, I mean, I think most industries, it's dependent on multiple people, but healthcare system is unique in that you have to meet the needs of every one of these stakeholders who are all equally important to you. I mean, at the end of the day, you're trying to save a patient's life. And how do you do this best, right? So you have to really go through the process and understand every step of the way. So, and of, then you, like you mentioned in the beginning, how do you get it through the FDA, right? What are the regulatory processes? What do you need to do? Do you need preclinical data? What clinical trials? Everything, like, how do you show safety, efficacy, all that stuff. If it's a device, how do you show equivalence, or all the stuff that you need to do. Like, there's so many important steps. Then marketing, right? Then intellectual property, how do you protect it? How do you have something that is you can monetize, you have protection on it, so that your investors will come in and say that, yes, I want to invest in this because there's a way for me to actually get a return on my investment. There's a way for you to actually protect this and monetize this. So all that stuff, right? And when I was introduced to that whole world, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And it was more of a training program, because it was a 1-year program. It wasn't that I couldn't stay in there 5 years and do what I wanted to do, but that crash course in understanding that there is so much beyond just the engineering. There's the clinician, there's the business part, there's the regulatory, there's reimbursement, right? All of that. So that was an eye opener to me. And I mean, you probably, if you are doing research, you probably won't go through until, mostly you won't become the CEO and then see your company through to a potential exit. But for you to be able to build something that in the near or distant future, somebody will actually come and use and pay for it, you have to understand all of that.
Yeah.
You have to understand that from day one, right? So, and this is not how academia thinks, this is how industries think, right? So this training was key to building up that mindset. It was key for me, and I feel that's very key in all academic settings, that how can you help these folks translate their life-saving research into actual stuff that helps patients. And so this hands-on early training experience with the biodesign program is what got me interested in the Coulter program next. And when Dr. Cynthia Helpingstein, who later became my boss and my mentor, she introduced me to this incredible program, the Coulter program and process, I was like, oh my God, I can continue doing what I am doing, and hopefully help people, right, do the same. And so biodesign for me, like I said at the beginning, was the stepping stone into the world of translational research. And then I ended up learning a lot working with Cynthia and the Coulter program leadership team here.
Very cool. Well, I think
Yeah,
it's so
I
interesting.
think you could see me how excited I get about talking about how I got here, right? Because it was an incredible journey.
And an important journey, right? And I think
Right.
that's, if anyone that spent time in labs and with researchers at that level, um, the emphasis you put on the kind of focus on solution versus problem, or focus on bringing things into the real world context, or being close, or having the ability to be close. Like you're talking about the kind of privilege with the connection in the academic environment. You can go to the hospital and see things implemented, right?
Right.
Which is just astounding, because a lot of times we do conceptualize things, a vision or a solution, kind of in a vacuum, right? And we don't either, we don't have anyone to push us outside of that comfort zone,
Right.
because these methodologies are meant to do that, right? To get you close to who you're hoping to serve with this. Or there's not easy access to be there with your customers, so it's a struggle, or your kind of end users. And then all the other things you mentioned are really important too, especially in the space that you're in, highly regulated space. What are those pathways? what capital and what resources does it take to actually go down that. So complex, super interesting. Is there a specific technology that you're currently working on with, or that you have worked with, that you would be willing to talk about, or something you're excited about?
Yeah, I just there are so many of those, right? The exciting ones, and how it's like, how do you pick your favorite child? But
Yeah.
but there's one that was spun out, and there's some really exciting, interesting activities going on with that. So I think I can talk about that project. And so the technology was funded by the Coulter program a few years ago, and it uses, what it does is it's a device that uses premature babies' own respiratory patterns to regulate the supplemental oxygen that is delivered to them that they need when they're in the NICU setting, right? The
Wow.
neonatal intensive care unit. So it's a very it's a very important unmet need, where these are very from what I've seen. These NICUs are a hard place to be in, right? It's just such a very stressful environment where you want to make sure you provide the best care to these premature babies, right? So the principal investigators actually from MU, Dr. Roger Fales and John Pardolas, so they got that project started a few years ago. They have since been developing it, and now recently, in partnership with the Sacred Heart Hospital out of Florida, they were awarded an NIH UNIS Kennedy Shriver National Institute of Child Health and Human Development clinical trial grant to continue developing and validating the technology for commercialization. And I think for them, winning that clinical trial grant was a great validation of the work they are doing, the importance of the work they started with the MU Coulter program, and it's a huge step toward getting the product into NICUs so that they can ultimately improve the quality of care for these premature babies. But that's a project that I find fascinating, and I always always been hoping and wishing them the best that this moves forward and ends up in the NICUs where it's very much needed.
Yes. Wow, that sounds fascinating. And congratulations to them, to Coulter. That's really, really cool and sounds very
Thank you.
important. Um, Tell me about, there's a lot of people you mentioned in this process that kind of impact the success of these entrepreneurs. I'm sure that's the case with
Hmm.
the technology you just talked about.
Right.
Um, the various partners, the mentors, um, subject matter experts that come into this, that, we've talked about, regulatory, the marketing piece. Um, Talk more about the impact of those people on your program and the researchers.
Yeah, no, great question there, Chris. And I probably couldn't say enough, right? Again, it's just, I have met so many incredible individuals through my associations with these programs here, with again, the Coulter Foundation, with Reach, the local ecosystem in Kansas City, St. Louis. And it's I mean, they bring the insights and the experience that you won't find in books and publications, right? An hour of talking to them, I've always found that I learned more than if I would spend days on going through Google or spending time in a library. Though I don't know if anybody does that anymore, but I hope they do. Libraries are nice places to be in, but it's just that the experience from doing something hands-on, whether they have been in an industry, right? Whether they have had their own startups, they are in the investment community, they are amazing. I mean, just the insights they bring, it's just amazing. I mean, it's like uh, I have seen cases where we have struggled with something for days, right? Looking at publications, looking at this, that, like, how do I find this out? And you talk to one expert and they solve that problem within that 1 hour, 1 hour conversation. It has happened to a project recently that was looking for something. They spent more than a year trying to figure that out because there's so much in different literature. There's no consensus on what should be the thing. And then they talk to an expert, and the expert says, yeah, I've been doing this for a while now. I exactly know where it is and where it was. And that was, again, it was to me, I'm like, it's so simple, but it was always there, but it looks so complex because I didn't know how to get to that person, right? So this is one of the reasons I always encourage our teams to network, right? And reach out to relevant people, talk to them, learn from them whenever possible. And whether it's through coaching sessions and customer discovery, that's again something that academics are not used to doing, but we try to push them, right? Go out there, talk to your customers, your users, your buyers, your payers, everyone, talk to them. There is no alternative to learning from real world stakeholders when it comes to trying to get a successful business, right, off the off the ground. So I encourage our teams to build their own network, because I believe that they should understand that their entrepreneur, they are the ones who should understand their entrepreneurial needs the best. They understand their technical prowess, they understand what they need to do, and I feel like they have the true drive. So I always tell them, you go talk to people, you make those connections. But as someone who runs these two early stage programs here in the Midwest, I strive continuously to identify more of these, subject matter experts who could help my teams with any and all aspects of their projects and products. So if somebody comes and tells me, Jay, I want to find these people, can I make that happen for them? It's not always easy, Chris. Again, Midwest, right? And not in Boston or San Francisco, but yeah. So, but I always,
So
I try to expand my network so that I can help with that.
absolutely. And on that, in that vein, if someone's listening that kind of might see themselves as useful or is interested in this, what would you ask, or what were you hoping? How would you might you engage someone like that?
Sure, yeah, that's a nice segue, right? That's a good, clever segue, and we are always looking for experts. Whether you have, anyone listening, you have some time to donate in mentoring, like an exciting team of academic innovators. Maybe they're building a new medical device, or looking for working on a diagnostic for potentially the next pandemic, or they are developing a therapeutic, right, a vaccine or something, or you're looking for a startup opportunity. Maybe you are a serial innovator entrepreneur, like, okay, I successfully exited my previous startup, I'm looking for a new one, or the next exciting technology to invest in, because all of that, we are looking for people constantly. And Chris, I don't know if it's possible, but my LinkedIn information can be listed below. I hope
Yeah,
this YouTube video. So feel free to send me a note if you're interested in learning more about the programs, or just chatting about how you can get involved. Happy to do that. Thank you for
that's
the
perfect.
opportunity.
Yeah, of course. And we have a lot of mutual interests, and both of us trying to support bringing more of these exciting technologies out of the lab to the world. Can you talk more about, kind of give us a little background on your relationship to whiteboard to boardroom, as it's been, and maybe if you have any hopes for it as it goes forward?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, delighted to. And I believe I was introduced to Jim Baxendale soon after I joined the Coulter program in 2015. And I remember this really nice, kind gentleman who was like, Jaya, if you need any help with this, let me know. And I was like, oh my God, that's so nice to hear, because I could use all the help, right, that we have. So I have had the chance to work with him extensively over the past few years, right, on showcasing a number of Coulter funded technologies through Whiteboard to Boardrooms, fantastic, your technology snapshot webinar series, right? I have found these webinars very useful, leading to meaningful connections with either entrepreneurs, manufacturing experts, networking in general. So I hope we continue to do that, because I have always found it very, very useful, right? I mean, again, getting researchers in front of that audience, getting them to pitch in front of them, always good practice for them. How do I make a pitch, right? And then the connections I've always had meaningful connections out of them. So that's helped. That's the added benefit, right? And Whiteboard to Boardroom and Jim, I feel like you guys have developed so diligently this really robust, right, network of individuals who are able and willing to help academic researchers and early stage entrepreneurs by connecting them to available resources in Kansas City and beyond. I think this is a great asset to the region and the local entrepreneurial ecosystem. So I have also collaborated with Jim on other projects, right? Because he has all these things like, courses and stuff. And I have always learned so much from chatting with him. He's an absolute pleasure to work with and learn from. And he introduced me to you, Chris, and I've had a blast
That's
chatting
right.
with you. So this is all awesome.
It's all awesome for sure. Yeah. It's all awesome. Yeah. And we're excited. I'm so excited that we were connected, and that we get this opportunity fan the flames of one another's efforts. I think there's a lot of possibility there, so we'll keep it going. So for folks that are listening in on YouTube here, please like it, subscribe, look down below. We will have links to the UMKC Innovation Center, our Whiteboard to Boardroom site, Jaya's LinkedIn profile. Feel free to follow up if you're interested in any and all of the topics that we have covered in this brief conversation. And we'll see you for the next episode.
Thank you so much for your time, Chris. Great chatting with you.
Thank you, Jaya. Thank you.
You.